Hello and welcome to Ordinal Revolution. My name is Shizzy, and on this channel we cover BRC20s, taps, bitmaps, and ordinals. We have a very awesome show today. We have the CEO of Bioniq. Bioniq is a really cool project. It's actually on ICP, Internet Computer Protocol, which is really awesome. I can't wait to really talk about. And it's kind of like a layer 2. You kind of have to wrap it over there. It's a really cool project, and I definitely want to start digging more into these layer 2s and stuff like that. So we're gonna bring you guys that more of that. So I'm excited. So let me bring in my co-host for this evening, Mr. Yagobi. What's up, buddy?
Hey, Shizzy, what's going on?
So we got Bob Bodily today. He
Yeah.
is the CEO of Bioniq. He's been in Bitcoin and crypto for a really long time. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm excited to have Bob on. I have caught bits and pieces of different podcasts that he's been on, episodes with like Jake. We know Jake, right? And also I caught a couple of his tweets. One of the ones that he retweeted was just showing the meta protocol layer and the layer 2s and the side chains and all that stuff, which was really cool. And it opened up, I think, some eyes in the ordinal space to kind of really see how these different parts can work with Bitcoin and just the structure of it, really. So that's really kind of something that caught my eye with Bob. And I started digging more and more deeper into like what he's doing, and it interests me even more. So I'm excited, really, to pick his brain.
Awesome. Yeah, let's bring him up. Mr. Bob Bodily from Bioniq. How you doing, sir?
Hello. Happy to be here. Doing okay.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
sir.
So on this channel, we obviously the projects are really important to us, the marketplaces and stuff like that. But like we like to dwell into the actual person, and like because the people around the space mean more to us than the actual projects. Because if without good people, there's not really a good space. So if you would kindly give us maybe your past, maybe before crypto.
Yeah, sure. I did undergrad in neuroscience. Always been very interested in learning and memory and how the brain works. And then went on and did a PhD in educational technology with the emphasis in learning analytics. So basically data science and learning, using data to understand how to help students learn more effectively and how to help teachers teach more effectively. Post PhD, I went on and worked as a data scientist and data engineer for a couple different tech startups. One retail analytics startup, and then an ed tech startup where I was their director of research and data science. In there as well, I think it was 2017, I started a ed tech company with a few friends, and we wanted to build like the ultimate practice question repository. So like imagine like an open source, kind of like a Quizlet or something like that, but more programmable kinds of questions. And we wanted to build it on the blockchain. Early 2017 wasn't really the best time to try to do something like that. It was a bit premature in terms of scale, in terms of usability. And so, didn't ever make it onto the blockchain, but that was kind of, the first time I did some really deep digging into Bitcoin and Ethereum, and then other kinds of, scaling chains. Didn't actually start building full-time on crypto until 2021. May of 2021 was when the Internet Computer Protocol did their mainnet launch. And so that's when I got with a couple friends and we started a company building on ICP. ICP is unique in that it's trying to become the decentralized AWS of crypto, essentially. So, you can do compute, hosting, and storage on AWS. And on ICP, they're trying to enable compute, hosting, and storage. So host your front end, host your images, host your assets, user-friendly smart contracts, etc. So yeah, built on ICP for a couple of years. The company is Toniq, Toniq. We have the largest NFT marketplace on ICP. We've built wallets, we've built smart contract wallets, we've built collateralized lending protocols. We've built all sorts of things on ICP. Then earlier this year and kind of late last year, ICP, the foundation behind ICP, which is Dfinity, released a couple interesting Bitcoin integration features. So there's actually a Bitcoin Lite node that's running on the Internet Computer right now. So the full UTXO set is queryable directly just via smart contracts on ICP, which is cool. They also released a threshold signing protocol. I don't know if I'll call it a protocol, but it's a threshold ECDSA. ECDSA is just a really popular way to sign, like a signature scheme. So Bitcoin transactions use ECDSA as the signature type, except for Taproot. Taproot uses a different kind of signature. So what that means is you can, from ICP itself, you can sign and broadcast Bitcoin transactions from smart contracts, which is pretty cool. And then the final Bitcoin integration piece is they released a wrapped Bitcoin on ICP called CKBTC. So this is just the wrapped Bitcoin on ICP. You can wrap your Bitcoin over, and then you get, it's like 5-second finality on ICP. And that's like deterministic finality. So, you know, it's completely finished. There's no probabilistic finality. And then the fee, it's like 10 sats, I think, is the transfer fee. So, you know, it's all the benefits of a sidechain, essentially. You get faster speeds and cheaper transactions. So then I think it was February 6th that I had seen enough already in the ordinal space to where we decided to build Bioniq, and we were going to leverage the awesome tech on ICP, the awesome Bitcoin integration features, as well as ordinals on Bitcoin, kind of smash them all together and build Bioniq on ICP. So been building for the last 6 months. It's been quite a bit to build because we have to have a wallet on the Bitcoin side, a wallet on the ICP side, kind of built into Bioniq. You have to build all the ordinals infrastructure and then all the smart contract stuff on ICP. So it's been a journey, but it's been a good one.
Wow, that's a lot. Yeah. Wow. So, you know, I whenever Shizzy and I talk about like solutions, I'm not obviously not even close to as well versed in anything in terms of you know, L2s or anything like you are, but I've been hearing a lot of good things about ICP because, like you said, you can read and write you know, Bitcoin, right? You can understand it. So you mentioned the Taproot having a different signature type. So has that been a problem, or have you guys kind of figured out how to make that a seamless thing with ordinals?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So you technically don't need Taproot for ordinals. You only need SegWit because you need the witness data in order to store the ord envelope. And so I was the first one. This was a couple months ago. I did the first pay to witness script hash, P2WSH inscription. So it's a valid inscription, well, valid inscription, but it doesn't use Taproot. This broke a couple indexers, which was kind of fun, but not super fun for the indexing people. And P2WSH inscriptions are currently cursed. Actually, I don't even know if they're officially cursed yet. They are cursed. They're not recognized as cursed. Eventually, they'll get recognized as cursed, and then they'll be recognized as a blessed category. We're not there yet. I have a PR into the Ord repo right now. So just need to get it reviewed to get them added as cursed inscriptions. But it's essentially the same. You just have a witness, and you have a specific section of the witness where you put the Ord envelope. And it all works. There are some different limitations, but yeah, so for actually inscribing, that's kind of the limitation for what you could do on ICP, because there's no schnorr on ICP unless you built it yourself, or, you know, I'm trying to get them to build it into the protocol itself, but it might take a while.
You mean like you can't actually inscribe on ICP is what you're saying?
You could inscribe, you can inscribe with P2WSH.
Okay.
But you can't inscribe with Taproot. That's correct.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. You know, with all these other layer 2 solutions and stuff, like you have stacks, and then ICP, which I've heard a lot of good stuff about. Like, how do you feel in terms of the ICP, you know, side being a main solution for being able to basically, you know, a lot of people on the ordinal layer want to do more things, right? They want to be able to have like an AMM. They want to be able to like trade tokens and stuff like that seamlessly. Does ICP allow that? Do you feel like, or is that not really what you guys are working on?
Yeah, so the way Bioniq will work is you'll wrap your Bitcoin over to the wrapped Bitcoin on ICP, and you'll wrap your ordinals over as well. And at that point, you are kind of officially on the side chain, meaning very fast transactions, no network fees, no gas fees, really great user experience. Everything people want. Increased functionality like offers. You could put an offer on any ordinal auctions, like English auctions, fully functional English auctions. Once you wrap over to a sidechain, you have full smart contract capability. On ICP, you can write smart contracts in Rust or Python or TypeScript. And so you have kind of full expressive programmability with your smart contracts. So whatever you wanted to build, you could build. And, you're building all at the application layer. You don't have to touch the consensus layer, the protocol layer at all. It's all at the application layer. So moving forward, I expect it to be very fast to build on ICP. In fact, I don't know that I've made this claim publicly yet. I don't know if I'm ready to make it, but I think it will be the fastest and easiest way to build Ordinals solutions will be to leverage ICP smart contracts for Ordinals. TBD on whether that plays out, but currently that's what I'm thinking.
Do you have a background on other chains, or was ICP your first one after Bitcoin? Did you play around on ETH or any EVM chain at all?
Yeah, I've done quite a bit on Ethereum. Mostly like NFTs, NFT trading. Also been diving pretty deep on the L2 ecosystem over the last couple months. So that's been really fun to kind of dig in on all things ZK rollups and fraud proofs.
You say ZK rollups. I'm hearing rumors or possibilities that potentially ZK can come to Bitcoin. Is that actual possible?
Yeah, so I'd say there are two main paths to where we could get ZK on Bitcoin. One is you upgrade Bitcoin itself so that it can actually verify the validity proofs. We might get this in 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I was about to say that's not happening anytime soon.
Right. Or someone else decides that they just really, really want it. They spin up some test net and they run it and it looks good. And maybe they push out a new version of Bitcoin Core and there's some like crazy ZK war and there's a fork or something like that. I don't know. But it's like crazy to even think that we would have progress there in the near term. So the second option, which is the more likely option, and I already know of multiple teams building in this area, is sovereign rollups. And sovereign rollups means that Bitcoin itself doesn't verify the proof, but users run a light client in their browser, and the users themselves can verify the proofs that have been posted to Bitcoin. So instead of like currently, you know how ordinals, you have an ord indexer that sits on top of a Bitcoin node. Instead of an indexer, you would have a sequencer and a prover. So the sequencer collects or goes and grabs all the transactions. The prover would essentially generate a proof based on the ZK circuit. It's essentially saying, here's all the data I had. Here's this is the code that I ran, and here and the output is this proof that then anyone can verify. So the benefit of sovereign rollups is you basically get L1 security. You're basically it's basically like an L2, but it's a user verified L2 rather than a Bitcoin verified L2. So the benefits are it removes this centralized indexer problem. Currently, we have Ordinals is pretty centralized, not as centralized. BRC20 is fairly centralized right now. Only a few key players running BRC20 indexers, and limited in terms of visibility there and open source code for those indexers. If you have sovereign rollups, then you don't really care if there's only one person because you can verify it yourself. So instead of trusting, don't trust, verify. Instead of trusting the current centralized indexers, the indexers just give you a proof that you can verify. So now you can just verify that everything is correct. So sovereign rollups, very, very cool.
Is there any chain that's using them as of now, or is this just something that's new to Bitcoin?
Starknet, maybe.
I don't think they're a sovereign.
Oh,
I don't think they're a sovereign rollup. I know Sovereign Labs has implemented their SDK on Ethereum and Celestia, and I know those are live already.
That's on Cosmos,
and then,
right? Celestia.
I think so. And then I know there are a few teams working on sovereign rollups on Bitcoin.
what's the biggest cons to sovereign rollups? Is there any downside to it?
Downside, users have to run a light client because you can't just from zero, you can't verify the proof. You have to have some data points in order to verify the proof. So users would need to run a light client. You could circumvent that potentially with some kind of trusted entity if you wanted to trust, but then it's like, why do the why do the roll up unless you built like a decentralized light client? Like you could build a decentralized light client on ICP, for example, and it would be fully decentralized, and people could leverage that instead of running the light client in their browser. The other downside is latency for proof generation is probably minutes right now, which if you're a roll up on Bitcoin, maybe doesn't really matter that much because Bitcoin block times are going to be, I don't know, 10 to 30 minutes. And so if you already have to wait 10 to 30 minutes, then waiting 3 minutes for a proof to be created, to be posted on Bitcoin isn't really going to impact anything. The other consideration is throughput. Throughput is actually pretty good right now. You could probably get like thousands of transactions per second, theoretically, from these rollups. And so it's also more compute on the node. So an indexer right now can be pretty light. It's just a bunch of if-then rules. But if you're actually going to start generating proofs, it's going to be heavier on the indexer. And then let's see, one more consideration is you do have a centralized prover, meaning you really only need one person to have a prover, but they could just like go away.
Manipulate it, or okay.
Yeah, so there are some censorship resistant concerns there, but yeah, I mean, overall, it's a pretty good setup from a technical perspective. Probably the best we have for Bitcoin right now.
So when you say users have to run a light client, are you talking about like all users or like a network of users together?
All users.
All users? Okay.
Anyone that wants to be able to verify the proofs.
Gotcha.
Some users might not care, might just trust, but then what's the point of a sovereign rollup anyway?
Yeah.
So I'm imagining like browser extension style, where it just kind of plugs in and it's like your wallet plus your like client, and anytime you do anything, it like does some here's the proof and green check mark verified. Like verifying proofs is very fast.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about that. But yeah.
That seems like it would be pretty easy, right? As a user, just to have it as another extension up as you're using your browser extension.
Yeah. I mean, browser extensions in and of themselves aren't fantastic.
Security wise?
Well, browser extensions are better than other things that you could do, like storing private keys in the browser. But it's just like a usability issue that we like require. I mean, in Web3, we've normalized browser extensions where it's like okay to have a browser extension, but normal users don't.
I didn't think about that really. Like before crypto, like how often did you use a browser extension?
Yeah. I mean, the hardcore techie people will.
Yeah.
So yeah, browser extensions are okay for now. So whether it's that or something else, like it shouldn't be too crazy. And I think you can get away with just like block headers, and maybe like some Merkle roots for state. and that is probably the extent of your light client. And so it shouldn't be too crazy there either. So I think those are probably my two best. I mean, there are other options as well, in the Bitcoin layers diagram that I had, there are lots of options, but my two favorites are, decentralized things via ICP on like a side chain, and the other is sovereign rollups. I think those are kind of my two favorite moving forward right now.
How far are we away from having sovereign rollups? Do you feel like a couple months?
I have no idea, but I would guess we'll get test net for a sovereign rollup on Bitcoin in the next 3 months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I know multiple teams building. So
Gotcha. Yeah, this actually, whenever you retweeted this, I was so glad because, someone like me that's not super technical, like I thought I would always call the counterparty a sidechain. And the fact that it's a meta protocol, like just like Ordinals, I was shocked to see that, but so you're saying that ICP will work more like a sidechain, kind of like how Stacks works?
So the actual lines between layer 2 side chains and the cross chain bridges, it's very, very blurred in this spectrum. I got the most comments and feedback on those sections because they were like, well, should Stacks really be next to Rootstock? Because Rootstock does XYZ better, but Stacks does, ABC better. But what about, Liquid? Like, why isn't Liquid up there? And how dare you insult the Liquid community? And so it's more of a rough grouping. I would call everything in the purple a sidechain. But in doing this graphic, I realized that Ethereum definitions vary slightly from Bitcoin definitions in terms of layer 2s and sidechains.
Yeah. This makes more sense to, I guess, give a more clear picture of like, because we recognize all these, right? Like as different chains. So being cross-chain makes more sense for a definition of this, but
right.
Yeah. Okay. So anything up here, if there's a solution up here, then it would be considered a native solution, correct? For like building on Bitcoin.
What do you mean native?
So, a lot of people talk about like Ordinals is really like it's just like on top of Bitcoin. But then like when I look at this graph, I'm like, this actually to me visually looks less connected than the side chains and cross chains because there's this DLCs right here, whatever this is. But it's just like on top. And I don't know if that's just for visual purposes to have it here. But, I guess someone that's not technical like me, like, is this considered being able to like interact? Is this like separate completely from Bitcoin, this layer, the meta protocol layer?
Yeah. So there are trade-offs that all of these layers make. And you really have to get into the details to understand how they're separated. So the way I'm finding a meta protocol here is you use Bitcoin as your data availability layer. What that means is all messages, inscriptions are all stored on Bitcoin. 100% are stored on Bitcoin. That means anyone at any point in time can go back through the history of Bitcoin blocks and reindex the ordinals state. And that's a really good thing about meta protocols because you have this ability for global state verification. You can always go back to the beginning and re-verify. It's the same with counterparty and the same with stamps. There's a certain protocol, a set of rules, and at any point in time, someone could just go back and reindex everything. And anyone could do it themselves. The downside on the meta protocol side is you have indexers, and the indexers are pulling from the chain, and then you have the actual rules of the protocol built into the indexer. And so meta protocols by nature are more centralized than Bitcoin itself because you're relying or trusting on not just like indexing the chain, but you actually have a set of protocol rules. and there's no consensus on this state layer. And there's this goes back to like the centralized indexer problem, where if every Bitcoin node also ran an Ordinals indexer, then we would probably be okay. Like that's probably sufficient decentralization, but there's no incentive to run an Ordinals indexer. There's no incentive whereas like on Bitcoin or Ethereum, if you're an honest validator on Ethereum, you're going to get compensated. If you're a honest miner on Bitcoin, you're going to get compensated. But where's the compensation for running an indexer? There isn't one, and so naturally you have fewer indexers, meaning more centralized. That's kind of the key characteristics of meta protocols.
Gotcha.
In your opinion, is there any way to incentivize it? Is there like, I guess you could create a token and stuff like that, but it doesn't seem very possible.
There are some hacky ways that you could think about doing it. Like imagine if BRC20 mandated that every time you sent or minted or deployed, you had to also send some BRC20 token to an address. Call it like the gas BRC20 token or something like that. And you could say something like, if you prove that you're running a BRC20 indexer, then we're going to, give you these tokens every X amount
Like
of time.
split it evenly amongst all the indexers or people that are running the indexers.
Yeah, and maybe they have to submit some kind of like, maybe it's the first person to submit valid Merkle tree root or something like that. But yeah, there are kind of hacky ways to do it. But if you push that narrative far enough, then you say, well, we want a consensus layer too. We want them to say like, here's my state, let's compare. Oh, they're good. Okay, let's compare again. Okay, yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
And then now you're implementing an incentivization scheme and a consensus mechanism, and you're basically just building a blockchain all over again.
Gotcha. Which
like
defeats the purpose.
It's like you're trying to create Bitcoin on top of Bitcoin. So
all right. So I wanted to take it back a little bit. So January, February rolls around. Domo and Casey put out these protocols. What you're working on ICP? What makes you jump really headfirst into this? Like, what did you like? What was your thought process behind that?
Yeah, jumping headfirst was pretty easy from my perspective, and it's for a number of reasons. Initially, the kind of thesis for ICP was, it's going to be the decentralized AWS of the world, and it's going to have its Solana moment, and it'll take off and it'll be wonderful. We haven't really seen anything that's had a Solana moment since Solana, and that could be attributed to some price manipulation and pumping from the FTX side, perhaps.
Yeah.
So in the event that you don't have a Solana moment, well, now you have a chain with really great tech that no one really cares about because it's not solving problems that people care about. And so my current thesis is, let's make Bitcoin better with ICP. Let's make ordinals better with ICP. Let's not force people to use ICP at all, except to plug it in as like a orchestration layer almost, or like plug it in at the infrastructure level where it makes sense to further decentralize front ends on ordinals, or to create a decentralized indexer, or improve the user experience and speed of Ordinals marketplaces. And so because of this new kind of thesis of, let's make other chains better with ICP, it made a ton of sense to jump into Ordinals, because it just fit with everywhere that we wanted to go as a company.
Okay. Actually, that was one of the first things that came to my mind, because I told Shizzy before this call that ICP is one of the most underappreciated tech in the space, because of exactly what you said. In my opinion, some price fluctuation in the beginning, and people get really hurt off of that, right? And then it's just a bad taste in their mouth. But this is like the perfect opportunity for ICP to kind of be that solution for Bitcoin. I feel like it's kind of like whoever decided to add the upgrade to be able to read and write, Bitcoin was, it seems like it's been planned, right? So, and then Ordinals gives a perfect like opportunity. So I don't know. I'm excited about it, but my question for you is it seamless? Because we've tried bridging over to like stacks and that wasn't really fun. So what does that look like in terms of if I want to send Bitcoin to ICP and turn it into CK BTC? Like how long does that take? And that kind of process.
Yeah, so the nice thing about bridging Bitcoin on Bioniq, for example, is we don't have a gas token. There's not a gas token on ICP because it's a reverse gas model, meaning just like if you were to spin up a server on AWS, like as a developer, you're going to pay the costs for that server. Similarly, on ICP, if you spin up a smart contract, you have costs associated with that smart contract. And it just makes sense to do this on ICP because you have storage and you have compute and you have hosting costs, which it's not just like on Ethereum, it's like one-time storage and you just have like your smart contract there essentially. And then you have users that are actually paying for like the compute moving forward. But on ICP, you could have a lot of storage, like gigabytes. And so because of that different model, no gas token on ICP. So because of that, you just need Bitcoin to convert. So you would transfer Bitcoin into your Bioniq wallet. You would say convert to CKBTC. You would pick your amount and you would say okay, and then you do have to wait 13 confirmations on the Bitcoin side. This is pretty standard. Like WBTC uses 6. Even like Coinbase, I think it's like 2 or 3 confirmations before it's a valid balance. This 13 will likely come down over time. It comes out to about 2 hours, 2.5 hours. So that's the current waiting time for wrapping. But it's nice because you don't need any other token. It's just one click. You just convert it. It'll just show up as pending, and then you just wait, the 2.5 hours, and then it'll show up on your wrapped Bitcoin balance.
How soon is that pending? Is it like right away? Because that's the scariest thing ever when you send more than you're willing to lose over, and you're just sitting there waiting. Like, what would you say? Like, just if your guesstimate would be
from when you send to showing as pending. It's fast. Like,
okay.
You're gonna send. It's gonna be shown. It has to be indexed. Seconds.
Oh wow.
10 seconds.
Okay.
15 seconds. Yeah, it's fast.
Okay, that's awesome. That's good to know because that's one of my things. Even though I know I'm 100% correct, I'm still like, I just want to see it. I just want to see it. So
yeah.
that's huge.
So the deployer pays the fees on ICP for the smart contracts. Is that how it works?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yep. If you want to, you can add a fee mechanism into your smart contract itself. So for the wrapped Bitcoin, there's a 10 sat fee to transfer. It's mostly just like a DDoS prevention than anything else. And so you can implement your own fees if you want on transfers and such for tokens. But for example, on wrapped ordinals, there's no fee, meaning that you could transfer wrapped ordinals around as much as you want for free. Just send them wherever you want. So the nice thing is you could do like, we have some launch tech we're working on where you'll be able to do like airdrops. Airdrops have been kind of hard to do unless you're a BTC machine, just forking out the money to, inscribe tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of ordinals at this point. But it will be relatively simple to, you'll essentially airdrop a voucher that is the right to inscribe. So it reserves your right to inscribe a particular image or asset. Then the users themselves can go and pay for the inscription and inscribe whenever they want. It's like a delayed, free for all, inscribe whenever you want kind of thing. So you could do an airdrop to like 10,000 addresses and it would be almost free for the creator.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Awesome. So is Bioniq a secondary marketplace, or is it right now just kind of showcasing almost like a gallery?
Currently, it's just an explorer. So you'll see the collections and you'll see the inscriptions. We have wallet fully built. We have marketplace all done, supporting offers, auctions, buy, sell, but we're still doing end-to-end testing. So probably releasing in the next week or two, or we'll see.
Gotcha.
You seem to be able to do a lot in this space. I'm curious why you chose a marketplace and what your thought process. Because I'm thinking you're thinking beyond marketplace. I think you got some other plans. Am I correct on this?
Yeah, so marketplace was because partially because everyone's using PSBTs, and PSBTs are great, except they're slow and at the cost of Bitcoin. And so rather than that, let's put assets on a permanent, a chain with greater permanence like Bitcoin, but then let's enable people to trade quickly on a marketplace. We've done quite a bit on the marketplace side. Like I said before, we have the largest NFT marketplace on ICP. And so leveraging all of our tech, like we have, smart contract wallet built in here, Bitcoin and ICP wallets built in. We have, it was really synergistic for us to start on the marketplace side as like a, just a foundational layer. And then, at this point we have all the infrastructure pieces in place and we can, build all sorts of cool tech on top.
Awesome. Do you have any plans in the future for more stuff with Ordinals, or are you guys just kind of sticking? Obviously, you probably have a lot on your plate building all this stuff with the marketplace. But is there anything in the future that you guys are thinking about building?
Yeah, I mean, I think on the Launchpad side, we're pretty excited about the, being able to do claims or being able to do large scale airdrops affordably. Similarly, you'll be able to do a launch that isn't like clogging the mempool. So when you do the launch completely on the side chain with like the voucher, it's almost like a pre-reveal. You could trade immediately. So you could buy from the launch, and then 5 seconds later you could sell on the marketplace, and then someone could buy it, and 5 seconds later you're done. Like 15 seconds could be full cycle purchase, sell on the market. And that's like, final. You get like 2 to 5 second finality on ICP. And so very fast. And so we are excited about our Launchpad. We think that offers a better user experience than current launch Launchpads. And we also, so the way that we've architected our marketplace with like our wrapper technology, it's pretty easy for us to move to other assets. What I mean by that is if we wanted to add counterparty assets to Bioniq, it wouldn't be that hard to just tweak our infrastructure layer to handle counterparty. Or if we wanted to integrate stamps, it wouldn't be that hard to add stamps. So if we wanted to be like a fully integrated Bitcoin NFT marketplace, branch out outside of Ordinals, we could do something like that. Or if we wanted to add Litecoin Ordinals, we could. It's pretty much the same tech that's going to be needed on the Litecoin side. Or if we wanted to add Doginals.
Doginals.
Don't add Doges.
just for Elon.
Yeah.
We would add Doginals just for Elon. So it's also not crazy to think about, like, there are lots of ECDSA chains out there, like Ethereum, Polygon, a lot of the EVM based L2s. So I don't know exactly where we're going to go with the marketplace in the future. There's lots of features still to build on the Ordinal side. We're very happy to build in the Ordinals community. We're not itching to go beyond. Branching out cross-chain too early is probably worse.
Yeah.
Than anything else. And so definitely focusing on Ordinals for now, and then we'll see.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
My last question is this. Ordinals has been an amazing experience for me, and I'm sure Shizzy too, because it's brought some fun back into my experience with crypto and DeFi, right? But what if I had any little bit of concern, it's hey, some of this has been attempted before with the counterparty stamps and stuff like that. What's your view on the future of ordinals? And I mean, is there a possibility it can just end up like counterparty, where it's not adapted adopted by mainstream and kind of just goes into the closet?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. For all the criticism that it gets, BRC20 is the most successful fungible token standard on Bitcoin of all time. Take everything else combined. Look at all of the different protocols, and BRC20 has had more volume than everything else combined. So despite the simplicity and the inefficiencies and the difficulties with indexers and being essentially a meta protocol on Bitcoin, we've seen more traction here than ever before. I would say the same thing with ordinals. From like a non-fungible token perspective, ordinals have had more volume than anything else. And so, like, could it? Sure. But I mean, we've seen collectors and investors and VCs all starting to come in around this ecosystem in ways that we haven't before with anything on Bitcoin. I think it was pretty rare to see a VC with a solid Bitcoin thesis, like investing in Bitcoin companies, until now, the last 6 months. And now I don't even think it's that crazy to have a Bitcoin thesis as a VC because of all the experimentation and building that's going on. And so, and we have evidence of Bitcoin companies raising rounds. And so could it go away? Sure. Like, could Ethereum NFTs go away? Sure. It's not likely. Like, to me, this feels like NFTs on Bitcoin. I know some people don't like to call ordinals NFTs, but if you think just broadly, like, Ethereum has an NFT ecosystem, and I think this is the NFT ecosystem on Bitcoin, because what else could it be? Like, have we ever had 10 marketplaces?
No. But what stopped Counterparty from doing that? You know what I mean? Before, do you feel like they were just too early with NFTs in general? Because it was 2016. No one gave a shit about NFTs except for like a couple of people then.
Correct. So it's interesting to think about. We could have had ordinals since SegWit. So 2017, we could have had ordinals, but we didn't until 2023. And why? I think we could speculate on a lot of reasons, but part of it is probably NFTs in general didn't have, whether it's product market fit or whether it's mass appeal or whether there's a market for it. I don't know what it is, but it just wasn't even there until we had like NFT summer, 2021. Yeah. And then finally NFTs are like a thing. Oh, you can hold them in your wallet. You can send them, and they're like tangible things that exist. Not tangible, yeah. But I mean, like, they're, and from a counterparty perspective, I think it was just early and people weren't ready for it. But then with ordinals, the fact that it was actual Bitcoin, it's on sats, you hold sats in a wallet, it matched the kind of Ethereum vibe for NFTs. Then it was just natural. Like, oh, we know we have collections, we have creator royalties, we have marketplaces, we have wallets, like all of the infrastructure, like in our minds, was all laid out. Like, this is what we need. And Casey, to his credit, built out like almost a standalone, like ready to go Ord indexer. It had indexer, plus it had Explorer, plus it had the ability to inscribe. So right from the beginning, if you were a developer, you just spin it up and you can mint and you can index and you can have an Explorer. And so I think, I don't know, the pieces all fell together really nicely. Yeah.
He made it easy, really, basically, at the end of the day. And then Domo just went ahead and made it real easy to deploy tokens. So, yeah.
And then Benny came along and brought us this TAP protocol. Have you looked into TAP protocol at all? And then are you interested in it at all?
I haven't done a deep dive on TAP protocol yet. I did just do a deep dive on Boss finally.
Okay. I'm curious of your opinion on
Yeah,
that because
we are
I'm not the
curious of
biggest
your
fan of
opinion
it.
on that.
So if you read the documentation, it's pretty grandiose.
Buzzwords.
Yeah, but they're actually building really cool tech. I would call
Okay.
Boss a meta protocol built on ordinals. So imagine like BRC20 or the OG game protocol or SAT's name. You don't have governance over like how changes are going to happen. You don't have like ordinal improvement proposals. You don't have BRC20 improvement proposals. You don't have a community. There's no governance structure. There's no incentivization
Yeah,
structure like we
that's
talked about.
is that not the problem though? The incentive
So
structure not being there.
Boss is trying to solve all of these problems. They have a governance structure built in. It's almost like a meta indexer where you can just like check the protocols that you want to index. Like imagine a meta indexer where you have the code and you just check like, do you want to be a BRC20 indexer? Yes. Do you want to be a ordinals indexer? Yes. Do you want to be a SATS name indexer? Yes. And then there's baked in governance to actually manage updates to that indexer. And imagine that there's some kind of incentivization for actually running the indexer itself. This is what Boss is trying to be. I know there's a language barrier on the Boss team, and so not everyone speaks.
Oh, that's probably where the disconnect is.
And so, yeah, put all of that together, and I think Boss is actually a lot more substantive than most people think. I think it's going to be really cool. We'll see. We'll see as they continue to develop.
Is the stuff they're trying to do even possible right now? Like we're such a small, like it's not enough like things going on right now. I just when I was reading it, I was like, not. I mean, it's a lot of big promises, and to me, it doesn't seem like much action. I mean, I think we would at least seen something by now.
It takes a long time to build something like that.
Yeah, TBD on that.
All right.
But I do need to look into TAP, so that's on my to-do list.
Have you looked into this? So our friends at Block Runner, they came out with this digital matter theory. Have you looked into that at all? That's something brand new to us. I was actually curious of your opinion on that.
Yeah,
digital matter theory.
DMT.
Yeah.
Basically, it's a theory stating that like all digital matter files are, will have its own asset class eventually, because like I guess like the dark matter that is they can't figure out what it is. This guy that came up with DMT is saying that digital matter is that. And like, so I mean, yeah, it goes into kind of like using your imagination, but the only thing that I can connect with that is like, okay, it takes energy to think of these things, to create these files and stuff like that. But I don't know, if it does become like a mainstream theory and it becomes adopted, then I feel like the way that TAP protocol works is you can fractionalize like any type of file or anything, so with you can tokenize it all. And it's really simple, just basically attaching like a YouTube file to like a certain amount of tokens and you can deploy it. They actually did that. So I was like, yeah, that could kind of intertwine together, but I think it's kind of like the DMT is a little bit far-fetched, but I think if it does work, then there's something there with TAP.
TAP is different than like assets on Lightning, right? It's separate.
Yeah. What do you mean? It's in terms of it's on the ordinal layer. So
because Taro, it used to be called Taro. There was a way to augment Lightning to add ordinals. It was a proposal called Taro, rebranded as Taproot Assets Protocol. This is a different TAP.
This is a different
completely
TAP.
different.
This is different.
This is the technology they're using for the parcels in Bitmap.
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
So basically, it's an extension off of BRC20s, right?
Yep.
So still JSON script, so it's simplified in terms of that, the language. But it's basically internally, it's way more flexible than what BRC20 can do. Externally, it looks very similar to BRC20. Is how it's broken down.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is it? It's not Track. Track is different.
Track is the actual project behind it. So
Okay.
that's Benny, the developer from Track, and
Yep.
he's trying
Yep.
to do the decentralized indexing.
Yep.
He has like 14. Is that what he said right now? 14 decentralized indexers, Shizzy?
I'm pretty sure that's what he
Yeah,
said. Yeah.
something like that right now. But it's not like a fully official decentralized indexing. But he's trying to be that solution for ordinals.
Yep.
Gotcha.
All right, Track and Tap. This will be my nice 3-hour deep dive tonight for my light reading.
I'm curious of your opinion on that. If you could please tweet it out when you're done, I would love to read that in the morning. That sounds amazing.
Yeah,
but
I'll do one on Bob as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so we really appreciate you coming on. This is part of the show where we kind of give you the stage. You can talk about really anything you want, bring people to you, or bring new community members. So we usually give our guests the stage for a few minutes.
Cool. Yeah, I think the only thing I want to say is, launching Bioniq in the next couple of weeks. Very excited. Bioniq will be the first dedicated Ordinals Marketplace built on a Bitcoin sidechain. So all the existing marketplaces are PSBT marketplaces directly on Bitcoin, which is great, trustless atomic swaps, but at the speed and cost of Bitcoin. So we moved to a sidechain because we get fast transactions, under 5-second finality, no gas fees, no network fees. Really good user experience. So really excited to launch. We'll have a few kind of collections, low cost collections, because the fees are so low. You could sell ordinals for $1, and it just makes sense because there's very, very, very low fees. And so we'll have a couple, really low fee, low priced collections for people to play around. And then on the builder side, if anyone is interested in building a prototype for ordinals, whether it's like a lending solution or it's some kind of other interesting interactivity on ordinals, come talk to me about how you could build it on ICP. I've talked to multiple teams over the last couple of weeks that have looked at rootstock, they've looked at stacks, they've looked at other chains, and I think like I said before, my prediction is the fastest way to spin up smart contracts, or the fastest way to add additional functionality to ordinals is going to be through ICP. So if you are interested in that, Dfinity, the foundation behind ICP, has grants available to people building on the intersection of Bitcoin and ICP. And also at Bioniq, we have a lot of infrastructure like Ordinals API, Collections API, other kinds of tech that we are happy to share with anyone that kind of wants to build solutions on ICP and Bitcoin. So you can reach me. I'm at Bob Bodily basically everywhere. So Twitter's probably the easiest if you want to shoot me a DM.
Sweet. Awesome. I'll have all that in the show notes. I'll put it so if anyone's looking for it, it'll be in the show notes, put down below. So Bob, man, I really appreciate your time, man. I know you're a very busy man. So thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, this was fun. We should do it again sometime.
For
Definitely.
sure.
I would definitely love when you get to the tab, because I'm a huge fan of what Benny's building. I'm always in their Discord. So I mean, yeah, I don't really know like technology level, but I'm curious of your opinion because I definitely respect your opinion.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thanks for watching, guys. See you.